We summon ourselves from the demands and delights of the daily round, from the dirty dishes and unwaxed floors, from unmowed grass and untrimmed bushes, from all incompletenesses and not yet startednesses, from the unholy and the unresolved. We summon ourselves to attend to our vision of peace and justice, of cleanliness and health, of delight and devotion, of the lovely and the holy, of who we are and what we can do. We summon the power of tradition and the exhilaration of newness, the wisdom of the ages and the knowing of the very young. We summon beauty, eloquence, poetry, and music to be the bearers of our dreams. We would open our eyes, our ears, our minds, our hearts to the amplest dimensions of life. We rejoice in manifold promises and possibilities. In that spirit, come, let us worship together. We begin our service today, as we always do, with the lighting of our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. We have started a new tradition. We've extended an invitation to the congregation that if a congregant or member or friend would like to light the chalice in acknowledgement of a person or an occasion, that the opportunity is there. And Jennifer McLean Madera has asked to light the chalice this week, so let's bring Jennifer up. Thank you. Jennifer, did you want to say the words? Okay, the words are here. Okay. There is a candle there.
Good morning. Yes. So, can you hear me? Okay. So I volunteered after seeing somebody else get up here and do this and thought I could do that. And I am lighting this chalice in honor of our children. Our son just finished his first year of college, and our daughter just graduated the last 2 days from UCLA with a geology degree, so we're very, very excited. This is not as easy as they make it look. Okay. Yes. Oh, sorry. Here's a flame. I have a question. Do I read? Okay. Chalice lighting, words of Amy Brooks. Persistent flame. Even when days grow shorter, and our homes shrink smaller, and our wicks burn lower, and our will to endure flickers, we light this chalice to kindle a flame of warmth as a reminder of the connection that draws us into a community that opens us up. In gratitude for the breath in our lungs and the love in our hearts, for the gift of this day alive.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I was a geology major once upon a time, but I didn't finish that degree. Did a degree in philosophy instead, and so look where I am now. So I would invite you all now to rise in body or spirit as you're willing and able, and join in saying our congregational covenant, first in English and then in Spanish. Love is the doctrine of this church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, thus do we covenant. La doctrina de esta iglesia es el amor. La búsqueda de la verdad es su sacramento y el servicio es su oración. Vivir juntos en paz, buscar el conocimiento en libertad, servir a la humanidad en comunión. Este es nuestro pacto. And please remain risen, if you would, and join in singing our opening hymn, The Sweet June Days. It is number 65 in the Gray Hymnal. Good morning. And welcome to the weekly worship service of Emerson Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm Todd Covert. I use he and him as my pronouns, and it is my privilege to serve as your worship associate this morning. One bit of housekeeping that I inevitably forget, so I'll get it out of the way. Please be sure to silence your electronic devices. Thank you very much. Emerson has been a welcoming congregation, offering a home for open and inclusive spirituality in the West San Fernando Valley since 1954. We proudly uphold the Unitarian Universalist values of love, equity, justice, and compassion. Here we hold to no creed, and we strive to be a place where you can bring your whole self, your full identity, your questioning mind, and your expansive spirit. Let us begin by acknowledging that this place where we sit in this sanctuary is traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Tataviam, Chumash, Tongva, and Quiche peoples. The forces of colonialism, imperialism, and racism stole these lands and suppressed the languages and cultural traditions of those who lived here. We, as resident and gathering on this land, commit to honoring the elders, those here in the present, and the future, for whom all of these people hold the memories and the traditions and the original culture of this area. We are gathered today for worship, both in our physical church in Canoga Park and virtually via the Zoom app. To our members and friends in both spaces, thank you and a welcome. We are grateful for your ongoing fellowship and support. This beloved community would be less without any one of you, and your presence is always deeply felt and appreciated. If you're new to Emerson, whether here or online, I hope that you find this service both spiritually and intellectually engaging, and that you feel truly welcome here. We encourage you to sign either our physical guest book in the foyer or the virtual guest book, which should be linked from the chat in Zoom. And in either place, you can sign up to receive our weekly newsletter with service announcements and information about other Emerson program offerings, both here in person and online. Also, in the Zoom chat, you should find a link to our virtual Book of Life, where you can share any joy or concern you'd like shared aloud with the congregation during the service. As always, those of you here in the sanctuary can share those names or occasions, those joys or concerns, in our physical Book of Life on the table just behind our music director, Kevin Matthey. If you'd like to get to know us better, please join us after the service here for a coffee hour in our pavilion behind the closed sliding doors to my right, your left, or on Zoom in our virtual coffee hour after the service. Today, I'm happy to be welcoming back Reverend Rebecca Benefiel Bijur. Reverend Rebecca serves as Emerson's affiliated community minister and has graced our pulpit numerous times. For today's service, she's lifting up a weekly resource on the uua.org website called Braver Wiser. Each week, a UU minister or other voice from the community shares a reflection and a brief prayer relating to a broad theme of courage and compassion for life as it is. Its content represents a diverse set of perspectives expressed in thoughtful but succinct forms. There appear to be nearly 300 weekly entries in the Braver Wiser archive. Now, I'm not sure how I have completely overlooked it during the 5 years I've served as a worship associate here at Emerson. Thinking about that a little bit over the last couple days, I have to admit that I find myself assuming that our settled minister, Reverend Matthew McHale, and other UU clergy folk, like Reverend Rebecca, must have to devour endless pages and countless books to find the context, the support, and the inspiration for their sermons' events. But then I see an online resource like Braver Wiser and realize that that just may be my generation talking. I assume wisdom comes from books that I have to buy and read. Well, hello blogs, and YouTube videos, and Facebook groups. Oh, and yeah, books. Hello, Audible. So I get it, right? Okay, boomer. So I promise to self, I'm going to look further afield online for the resources to flesh out these services when I participate. Oh, and let me take this opportunity as a public service announcement to recommend the uua.org website to all of you. There is plenty of fascinating, enriching, and uplifting content to be found there. And so now, before I turn the pulpit over to Reverend Rebecca for this week's Story for All Ages, we're going to take a moment to greet our neighbors in a spirit of fellowship. So while we're doing that on Zoom, if you're new, please introduce yourself and chat. This is an excellent time to share a joy or concern in the Book of Life. And so, having said all of that in a spirit of fellowship, please take this opportunity to greet your neighbors. Hi. Good morning. listen, and 20 years as a pagan clergy person before that, so, yeah. Well, and then the acting major, and the MFA in theater, and the high school debate in forensics. Thank you so much. Thanks for saying that.
Hello, Maestro.
Hi, how you doing? No, that's okay. That's okay. Kevin.
Kevin.
I know, I should be wearing my middle name tag. It's out there.
Was it okay that I should always call you Maestro?
Yes, oh, absolutely.
Okay. It's good to see you. Good job, Zoe. I love to see you.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
What you looking for?
Good.
Yeah.
How's your week?
Yeah, and we're running low. We need to buy new ones, actually. That's kind of
Just do
Yeah. Kids out of school this week, so.
All right.
Just kind of have to have Carter on the
Find things to do. Keep busy.
Yeah. How about you?
Started work recently. That's why I was a little bit
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Good morning, Emersonians. I always think about Reverend Ann when I step on this particular step stool. So I see that our story today is going to be both for the young and the young at heart. So I am going to go ahead and do it from up here so that people can see a little bit better. It's called The Listening Walk. And I know today is Father's Day, so a special welcome and appreciation to our folks who are currently fathering, or who have fathered in their past, or have a plan to perhaps father in the future. Whether or not your father is someone who was able to be there for you the way that you needed, I hope that you were fathered by other people as well. A shout out to my dad, who usually watches my services online. So if you're here, Dad, happy Father's Day. And this book reminded me of the walks that I take right now. My father lives in in Silver Spring, Maryland, and I talk to him on the phone, and I go on a walk. And so this is about the listening walk. I like to take walks. I take walks with my father and our dog. Our dog is called Major. He is an old dog, and he does not walk very fast. We go down the street, and we do not talk. My father puts his hands in his pockets and thinks. Major walks ahead and sniffs. I keep still and I listen. I call this a listening walk. On a listening walk, I do not talk. I listen to all the different sounds, and I hear many different sounds when I do not talk. First, I hear Major's toenails on the sidewalk. Major has long toenails. When he walks, his toenails scratch the sidewalk, and they go twick, 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 twick. I hear my father's shoes on the sidewalk. My father walks slowly, and his shoes go dop, 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 dop. I cannot hear my shoes because I wear sneakers. I hear all sorts of sounds on a listening walk. I listen to sounds I never listened to before. I listen to lawnmowers. Lawnmowers are noisy. A lawnmower makes a steady zooming noise that goes like this. Zoom. I like to listen to the lawn sprinklers. The lawn sprinklers are very quiet. They make different sounds. Some sprinklers make a steady whispering sound like this. Other sprinklers turn around and around. They go like this. On a listening walk, I hear the cars in the street. The shiny new cars are quiet. They make a soft hmm. But the old cars are very noisy. Old cars sound like this. Bracka, 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 bracka. When cars go around the corner too fast, the tires go whirr. And when cars stop quickly, the brakes go yee. On a listening walk, I hear all kinds of sounds. A bicycle bell ringing, tring, tring. A baby crying, wah, wah, wah. A jet flies over. Jets are very noisy when they're overhead, and a jet goes, phew. A child runs by dribbling a basketball. Bop, 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 bop. A lady hurries by us, and she is wearing high heels. The lady's high heels go bick, 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 bick. A bus is coming, and the lady starts to run. Bick, 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 bick. The bus stops at the corner, and the lady gets on. And the bus starts up again. Sharoof. Around the corner, people are digging up the street. They are using a jackhammer. And it makes a loud banging sound. Dack, 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 dack. That jackhammer hurts my ears. I put my hands over my ears as we walk by. Dack, 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 dack. Sometimes my father and I take Major to the park. And it's quiet there. The sounds in the park are not loud like the noises in the street. My father and I walk down a shady path. I do not talk. I listen. I listen to my father's shoes on the path. They make a soft sound. They go chuff, 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 chuff. I listen to the birds in the park. I listen to the pigeons and the ducks. The pigeons fly down to meet us. They want us to feed them. The pigeons puff up their feathers and they take little tiny steps. They come toward us nodding their heads and they say, proo, proo, proo. At the pond, the ducks are waiting. They want us to feed them too. The small ducks swim up close. They turn their heads on one side and look up at us. The small ducks waggle their tails and quack. They say, gank, gank, wonk, wonk, gank, gank. The big ducks are not so brave. They stay back and they swim around in circles. The big ducks look at us, but they don't come close. The big ducks say, gank, gank, gank. Sometimes I hear a woodpecker in the park. The woodpecker sounds like a little hammer. He goes, rat-tat-tat-tat-tat. In the park, I hear crickets in the grass. The crickets go, creet, creet, creet. I hear the wind in the leaves. It whispers, shh. I hear the bees in the flowers. Bzzz. It is fun to go on a listening walk. You do not have to go far. You can walk around the block and listen. You can walk around the yard and listen. You do not even have to take a walk to hear sounds. There are sounds everywhere, all the time. All you have to do is keep still and listen to them. Right now, there are sounds you can hear when you finish this book. Close the book and listen. How many different sounds can you hear right now? Close your book and count them. So I always say, I hope that after our services that you talk to other people about what we're talking about here at the church. And again, whether you're young or young at heart, I hope the listening walk can remind you of walks that you've taken where you've had a chance to really listen, and remind you that the space of listening is available to you always. If you are able to find that quietness, you can listen.
As a self-supporting congregation of Unitarian Universalism, each week we take up a collection to support the work of the church. Since the early this year, we have begun up a practice of sharing the plate, of sharing the offering, splitting it 50-50, with an organization in the broader community that we feel aligns with our mission, our values, and our work supporting community engagement, social, political, and environmental justice. This month, we're sharing the plate with the UU Justice Ministry of California. The mission of UUJMCA is to advance justice in our state by cultivating and connecting leaders and communities, and by empowering the public voice of those who share UU values and principles. We are called by faith to change policies and structures that inhibit human development, harm the environment, and destroy communities. We are called to educate and organize for justice. And so now, as the offering is collected, understand that we'll be sharing it with UUJMCA. Those of you who want to donate online, we are in the process of switching over from the Vanco mobile app to the Breeze app. We have been sending out links, I think, to get yourself set up to donate via Breeze, but the Vanco app is still available, I think, for another Sunday or two. So either through the Vanco mobile app or the Breeze app, if you're set up with a profile on that, you can donate online, or you can go to donate.emersonyuc.org, or you can send a check to our physical address in Canoga Park. Just be sure to write share the plate and the memo. If you're sending a pledge contribution by check, please put that pledge, annual pledge in the memo. And so having said all of that, your donations will be gratefully received. so now we have a musical offering. Shara Ramani and Kevin Matthey are going to offer Shine Brave by Fearless Soul.
Check, check.
I'll never really lose. Dream I chase is chasing me. I am destined for greatness, restless mind, be still and shine brave. I am loved. I am loved. I am strong. I am enough. I am destined. I am light. I am brave. I am brave. I've overcome before. This storm can keep me down. I'm stronger. I'm never ever lost. I'm alive. I'm here. So I'll shine brave. I am loved. I am strong. I am enough. I am destined. I am light. I am brave. I am brave. I am loved. And I am strong. I am enough. I am destined. I am light. I am. The clouds are closing in, storms on its way. No more chains. I am free. Oh, sounds of battle silence. The war is won. I brave the storm. I'm loved. I am strong. I am loved. I am destined. I am light. I am brave. I am loved. I am strong. I am enough. I am destined. I am light. I am brave. I am brave.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Shara. I was going to invite all of us to try to be of a mind and join in a spirit of prayer, meditation, or contemplation, but that sort of moment, I think, unites us all. I hope it has. But in the spirit of prayer, meditation, or just contemplation, I invite you all to settle, close your eyes or soften your gaze, if you will, and just breathe. Find your breath in this space. For those of you on Zoom, know that the sounds and the images you're seeing and hearing are coming to you through a network. Maybe you can imagine yourself sending energy back through that same network to join with us here, to become one beloved community. As we breathe, open yourself to the breath of those around you. Know that we are all here, we are all together. We are all filled with love, compassion, and bravery. From the Braver, Wiser resource that we've talked about already, wanted to share at least one of the weekly prayers. It's short. These are the words of Lynn Gardner. Saving what we can. Source of possibilities. As we move through the world, may we be open to times when our presence, actions, or words may make a difference. In our times of need, may we each be saved by hope, connection, and love. And as we remain in this state of connected love, compassion, and openness, I share the joys and sorrows that have been written down in our book of life. Someone has written, sorrow. A young mother and friend has cancer. Send love and light to Whitney. Below that has been written simply, happy new moon. Brian Nelson writes, as a Writers Guild strike captain, it is an uncertain time, but it is made brighter by the solidarity and support from our friends, our city, our colleagues, our international network of labor. Thank you all. Jeremy writes, my Father in heaven looks down on my mother with protection today as she recovers from falling again and again and works to find her balance. Send her light. Someone who did not leave their name writes, to all the fathers with us today and the ones in our hearts, thank you for the joys you bring. And I admit I look forward to this one because it's here almost every week. Lucas writes, live to love, love to live. Nothing appears to have been shared in our online virtual book of life. So now in a moment, I'm going to ring a singing bowl. And in that space, I invite you to share aloud or raise up in your heart any names or occasions in your life or in the broader world that you want lifted up, shared, strengthened, and held by this beloved community in our embracing meditation. John Covert. Know that beyond what we've heard, beyond what may have been shared in the chat online, much in the way of joy and concern is held silently in our hearts, but it is every bit as real. And so now when I ring this bowl again, let us take in the strength that we can from the joys that have been shared, that may strengthen us to lift up, support, and offer love and compassion to those with sorrows and concerns. It's now invite you all to join in our sung meditation, Spirit of Life. It's number 123 in the gray hymnal. The words are on the screen.
Our first reading this morning is by Lee Young Lee. It's called From Blossoms. From blossoms comes this brown paper bag of peaches we bought from the boy at the bend in the road where we turned toward signs painted peaches. From laden boughs, from hands, from sweet fellowship in the bins, comes nectar at the roadside, succulent peaches we devour, dusty skin and all, comes the familiar dust of summer, dust we eat. Oh, to take what we love inside, to carry within us an orchard, to eat not only the skin but the shade, not only the sugar but the days, to hold the fruit in our hands, adore it, then bite into the round jubilance of a peach. There are days we live as if death were nowhere in the background, from joy to joy to joy, from wing to wing, from blossom to impossible blossom, to sweet, impossible blossom. Our second reading is the text of the Juneteenth historical marker in Galveston, Texas, which is located at 2201 Strand Street. Has anyone been to Galveston? Have you been to the marker? All right. Commemorated annually on June 19th, Juneteenth is the oldest known celebration of the end of slavery in the U.S. The Emancipation Proclamation issued by President Abraham Lincoln on September 22, 1862, announced that on the first day of January, A.D. 1863, all persons held as slaves within any state in rebellion against the U.S. shall be thenceforward, and forever free. However, it would take the Civil War and the passage of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution to end the brutal institution of African American slavery. After the Civil War ended in April 1865, most slaves in Texas were still unaware of their freedom. This began to change when Union troops arrived in Galveston. Major General Gordon Granger, commanding officer, District of Texas, from his headquarters in the Osterman Building at Strand and 22nd Street, read General Order No. 3 on June 19, 1865. The order stated, the people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves. With this notice, Reconstruction-era Texas began. Freed African Americans observed Emancipation Day, as it was first known, as early as 1866 in Galveston. As community gatherings grew across Texas, celebrations included parades, prayer, singing, and readings of the proclamation. In the mid-20th century, community celebrations gave way to more private commemorations. A re-emergence of public observance helped Juneteenth become a state holiday in Texas in 1979. Initially observed just in Texas, this landmark event's legacy is evident today by worldwide commemorations that celebrate freedom and the triumph of the human spirit. That's the end of our second reading. So at one of our historic Unitarian Universalist congregations in Boston, the Arlington Street Church. Has anyone been to the Arlington Street Church? The geography quiz will slow down a little bit later on in the sermon. Just want to know where y'all have been. The Arlington Street Church is one of our historic congregations in New England, and in it, my colleague, the Reverend Kim Crawford Harvey, used to quote the congregation's motto frequently during worship. She would remind us again and again that we were gathered in love and service for justice and peace. In my mind, over time, the four parts of that tagline, love, service, justice, and peace, became somewhat interwoven. I found it hard to remember which ones belonged on which side of the tagline. Was it gathered in peace and service for love and justice? Was it gathered in justice and service for peace and love? Honestly, I could make a case for all of the words, moving from side to side like a balanced algebraic equation or a chemical formula, as long as we made sure we were gathered in and for something. Of course, as I was writing this, I fact-checked myself, and I realized that I had actually been remembering those words incorrectly all along. Where the congregation had put peace, I had put hope. I had remembered hope. I had remembered that the congregation was gathered in love and service for justice and hope. Or maybe it was gathered in hope and love for justice and service. In each iteration, I found hope to be particularly interchangeable between what it was that would gather us in and what it was that would send us out again. Perhaps this is why the poet Victoria Safford called them the gates of hope. We're gathered in hope and we are sent forth in hope. I wonder if I misremembered hope as part of that motto of that particular congregation because I was there on the Sunday after same-sex marriage became legal in Massachusetts. If any of you were in a Unitarian Universalist congregation in Massachusetts during that joyful spring 19 years ago, I hope you remember it too. The way I remember it, my choir, which used to rehearse in a beautiful old room in that historic building, a New England church built with a balcony, with pew boxes, with an elevated wooden pulpit, arcaded by those famous Tiffany stained glass windows. My choir rehearsed in that building, and as part of our rental arrangement, we would sing for the Sunday service from time to time. And so it came to pass that we were there, gathered as a choir to share our songs, when the Reverend Crawford Harvey asked if anyone had gotten married that week. And all the people in all the pews started to rise. It seemed like at that moment the whole congregation consisted and existed and persisted and resisted as same-sex couples who were now surprisingly newlyweds. I think even the Reverend Crawford Harvey had married her partner that week. And I'm sure she was a presiding presence at so many weddings in those days. So much joy. Do you remember? I know California had a different timeline on this one, but I'm sure there was a week, a time, a month, a season when that's what it felt like here. The way the poet told us, there are days we live as if death were nowhere in the background, from joy to joy to joy, from wing to wing, from blossom to impossible blossom, to sweet impossible blossom. At the time I was planning my own wedding, in addition to that incredible joy, that gathering in of love that was present in the space on that morning, was my own quiet observance of how many older couples there were. Do you remember that? How many years and months and decades these people had been partners without the state's say-so or blessing, in defiance of that, in fact. So when I say that the Arlington Street Church was gathered in service and love for justice and peace, I mean gathered in love. That joyful love that overspilled the balconies on that day. That kind of justice that resists and consists and persists and exists to embody the fullest expression of human flourishing. The kind of justice that yearns and dreams and listens for the day when all of us will be free. That kind of justice, my spiritual family, is built on the strength of our lungs. Lungs like ours that breathe in the air of a highly elevated air quality index, that air of suspicion and cynicism, that air of corroded trust and weary struggle, the air of bad news and oceans on fire, of failed leadership and our ordinary brokenheartedness. We breathe in that air and we breathe out brave, like Shara. We breathe out wise. We breathe out hope and hope and hope, because deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. And the way it is now is not the way it always will be, because we are not the people we were not too long ago. So the people of Arlington Street Church are people, our UU family. Maybe they didn't include hope in their motto because that was the air they were breathing in their lungs in that congregation in those years. Gathered in service and love for justice and peace, and they are gathering it in again today, still, this morning, too. The Christian theologian Walter Brueggemann taught that a community that wishes to generate hope, a community that wishes to generate prophets, a congregation that will seed its future by nurturing the truth tellers and the voice walkers, by growing poets and teachers who are not only brave and wise, but who make us all braver and wiser, that a community like that must have 4 attributes. He wrote that the community must have memory. In that prophetic community, he wrote, there is a long and available memory that sinks the present generation deep into an identifiable past that is available in song and in story. Memory. Number 2, the community must express its pain. In that community, he writes, there is an available, expressed sense of pain that is owned and recited as a real social fact, that is visibly acknowledged in a public way and understood as unbearable for the long term. Number 3, the community must have hope. In the community that is prophetic and truth-telling, he writes, there is an active presence of hope. A community that knows about promises yet to be kept, that stand in judgment on the present. Finally, number 4, the community must have a shared language. In the prophetic community, he writes, there is an effective mode of discourse that is cherished across the generations, that is taken as distinctive, and that is richly coded in ways that only insiders can know. It may be the case that I added hope to that Arlington Street Church equation years later, because at the time I was reading these life-giving theologies, these generative stories of who we are and who we want to be with one another, and what Brueggemann was arguing rang so true to me. Communities that give rise to prophets, people who nourish people who are brave and wise and free. We need memory. We need the expression of our pain and sorrow, the active presence of hope, and the keys to keep building our understanding. This became, over time, a bit of a reworked church motto for me: gathered in memory and pain for hope and understanding. Now, when I say we are gathered in pain, I don't want you to run for the doors, thinking that our communities of active hope are dwelling in suffering, that we can make for ourselves a permanent home there in that rocky place where so little seems like it can grow. That's not what I mean, and it's not what the theologian meant either. We're just saying that in our dominant culture, our dark emotions, our fear, our anger, our grief, our despair, have been banished in favor of a highly untruthful vision of a meaningful life. Brueggemann says it this way, that so many of the most dishonest parts of our society are rooted in an unholy embrace of consumer capitalism, where you just go from triumph, to well-being, to ease, to prosperity, and you never have any brokenness. To counteract this fundamental misunderstanding of what it means to be human and to live in human community, Brueggemann argues for the necessity of lamentation, for the ways and practices that give voice to our losses, that bring witness and witness to the expression of our collective pain. In our UU congregations, we hold our pain together in our candles, in our stories of joy and sorrow, in the beautiful embracing meditations that are offered so generously week after week in this pulpit. The musician Nick Cave called it the secret, terrible beauty at the heart of loss, an unwilling and unready turn toward what is really real, a reluctant turning toward other people who have also survived loss. All of us, again and again. This is what I mean by a community that gives voice to our collective, unbearable, and yet we are bearing it, lamentation. The human solidarity in which we move from triumph to loss, to grief, to well-being, to frustration, to kind of getting by, to prosperity, through all of our wholeness and brokenness and everything in between. Living deeply in ways that cry out for a true expression in our songs and our stories and our poetry, that call for our listening walks, holding hands with our fathers and mothers and parents in ritual and ceremony, that call for the cultivation of our practices and habits that intensify our attentiveness to the world as it is. Which brings me to Juneteenth, the birth we are witnessing of a new federal holiday that retells the story of how our American ancestors, enslaved and free, came to pass the word of that great expansion of human freedom, of how they shared the words of liberation with one another, and how they began to construct and reconstruct a new society on the ashes of the old one, which was still burning as they watched. As I read earlier, Juneteenth is the oldest known celebration of the end of slavery in the U.S. It is the day when we remember the Emancipation Proclamation, issued by President Abraham Lincoln, which announced that on the first day of January in 1863, all persons held as slaves will be, thenceforth and forever, free. However, it would take the Civil War and the passage of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution to end the brutal institution of African American slavery. And because I'm with Unitarians this morning, I want to say the 13th Amendment has some problems in it that we are still working out. It still allows for slavery of prisoners. And we are actively working as UU communities to understand how to remove that and how to make sure that slavery does end in this country, if not 100 years ago, certainly not one day more is acceptable. And still the work goes on. In many ways, Juneteenth answers the question that was posed by the abolitionist Frederick Douglass in 1852 when he wrote, "What to a slave is the 4th of July?" The holiday's full name is Juneteenth National Independence Day, but according to Dr. Tia Miles, writing this week in the New York Times, enslaved Americans celebrated Emancipation Day as far back as 1833, inspired by the day freedom came to the people of the West Indies. And Black communities across the United States have gathered for emancipation commemorations that have depended on local conditions, such as the day in 1865 when the Muskogee Creek Nation ended the slavery of African-descended people in what is now eastern Oklahoma. Juneteenth wraps up this complicated history and presents it to us fully entangled and interwoven with all of the other ways we build our shared histories. It presents to us an opportunity to remember and reckon with the largest embrace of our American family, to build a truly shared and multiracial history in which we can express the unbearable pain of the years of slavery and loss and brutality that came before that emancipatory moment, and remember that it did not last forever. It causes us all to wonder how we are reconstructing our society today on the grounds of what came before, in the fullness of equality and dignity and courage and compassion. A society that is brave and wise and free. Juneteenth asks the question, where will freedom find you? Where will you be when you receive the news that you are free? How will you use your freedom to free others? And how will we, as Unitarian Universalists, as spiritual pluralists so deeply committed to democratic processes, how will we consider what it takes to guard freedom, to watch freedom, to cherish freedom, when the powers seek to abridge freedom, end freedom, or silence freedom? One of the Tennessee Three, Representative Jordan Pearson, was preaching in our UU congregation in Memphis, the Church of the River, on Easter Sunday this year. You will remember that Representative Pearson and his colleague, Representative Justin Jones, were voted out of office by the Tennessee State House by their fellow representatives, following a call for an end to gun violence. And so Pearson came to be in a UU pulpit on Easter Sunday, and he began by saying that the sermon had already been preached. It was preached, he said, in the children's message. It was preached in the times of Jesus, that had already been preached because it had already been lived by the people. What if the celebration and the commemoration of Juneteenth is about a reckoning that continues to this day? What if it is about our American communities reconstructing and sharing our memory and our pain while we reach for justice and love? What if that sermon has already been preached? Preached at the pride parades, where our congregations carry the banners that say that blessing same-sex marriage is holy and good? Preached in the OWL classrooms over many weeks this spring, where Reverend Matthew and Jamie and Tracy and Maureen taught another generation of early teens a message of power and dignity, grounded in our values of self-worth, justice and inclusivity, sexual health, and sexual responsibility. Preached in Shara's song and the community that holds her singing. Preached in our listening walks that keep us connected across the generations, even when we disagree. And preached in these sweet June days when we move from blossom to blossom to blossom. This sermon has already been preached. The good news is that we are gathered today in memory and in pain, for hope and for love. And so we recognize the joy of emancipation, and we remember that we are free. And we remember the teacher who told us the purpose of freedom is to free someone else. I think this must be why the activist and artist Patrisse Cullors wrote it in this way when she imagined Black Lives Matter, when she brought that prophetic community of truth tellers into being. She posted, "Black Lives Matter is a movement attempting to visibilize what it means to be Black in this country, provide hope and inspiration for collective action to build collective power to achieve collective transformation. Rooted in grief and rage, but pointed toward vision and dreams." We are rooted in grief and rage, but we are pointed toward vision and dreams. We're gathered in love and service, for justice and peace. We're gathered in the witness and withness of memory and pain for hope and understanding. May we be the ones to make it so. Would you please rise in body or in spirit and join me in singing our closing hymn, Wake Now My Senses.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being it all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged praise. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance clear. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
When you leave this place, take a dose of courage and compassion. Share the songs and stories of lamentation and triumph. Remember, rebuild, and reconstruct the widest imagining of our collective history. Recognize the active presence of hope. It is in the air we are breathing, through our lungs, even here, even now, for we are brave and wise and free.